Have you ever stopped to wonder why a single painting, created more than 5 centuries ago, continues to captivate millions of people every year? What makes the Mona Lisa, with her mysterious smile and watchful eyes, not only the most famous painting on the planet, but also the subject of endless debates, theories, and fascination? From the moment you look into her gaze, there's a feeling that she's hiding something, something more than just brushstrokes on a canvas. But before we begin, please, hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Leonardo da Vinci began painting this masterpiece between 1503 and 1506, yet at the time it wasn't immediately celebrated as the pinnacle of Renaissance art. In fact, its rise to fame was anything but instant. For centuries, it remained admired but not yet legendary, quietly hanging in royal collections, until a scandal centuries later thrust it into the spotlight. Isn't it fascinating how history often decides what becomes iconic? Has this ever happened to you, where something overlooked suddenly gains immense value just because of a dramatic twist of fate? The Mona Lisa's journey is a perfect example of that phenomenon. When Da Vinci passed away in 1519, the portrait was acquired by King Francis I of France and eventually found its home in the Louvre. Still, it wasn't the universal sensation it is today. It took an event of pure audacity to catapult her into the center of worldwide attention: the infamous theft of 1911. Imagine the shock when it was discovered that the most valuable painting in the Louvre had simply vanished. The media frenzy that followed lasted for months, turning the Mona Lisa into a global headline. Stay with me until the end, because the details behind this dramatic episode are nothing short of incredible. For 28 long months, the painting was missing. People speculated, gossiped, and obsessed over where it might be. When it was finally recovered in 1913, the public's response was overwhelming. In just the first 2 days after her return, more than 100,000 visitors flooded the Louvre to see her again, as if she were not just a painting, but a living presence rediscovered. And that was only the beginning. Today, over 8 million people stand before her each year, proof that what you're about to discover might surprise you. The Mona Lisa's fame is not rooted only in her creation, but in the drama, scandal, and human curiosity that wrapped around her story. It's intriguing to think that Leonardo, while working meticulously between 1503 and 1506, could never have imagined the cultural phenomenon his painting would become. He layered pigment with mathematical precision, experimented with techniques ahead of his time, and left us with a face that seems both familiar and unknowable. Yet for centuries, the world barely paid attention. Her fame, her myth, her aura, all of it is a product not just of art, but of history's unpredictable twists. Doesn't that make you wonder how many other masterpieces remain in shadows, waiting for a moment of scandal, a theft, or a rediscovery to ignite their place in history? What keeps us so entranced by her smile? Why do millions cross oceans just to stand a few feet away, even if only for seconds? The answer lies not just in her beauty, but in the layers of story, speculation, and secrecy that turned her into a legend. And as we begin to peel back those layers, moving from the tale of her fame to the secrets hidden within the canvas itself, you'll see why the Mona Lisa is much more than a painting. It is a riddle, a mirror, and perhaps even a code left behind by Da Vinci himself. Stay with me, because in the next part, we'll step beyond the fame and into the hidden mysteries of the Mona Lisa, where every brushstroke could be a clue, and every detail might change everything you thought you knew. If you're someone who values uncovering hidden truths, exploring fascinating stories, and seeing the world through a different lens, then subscribing to this channel is the best way to stay connected. Each video is crafted to bring you insights that spark curiosity and inspire reflection, and I'd love for you to be part of this journey. Hit subscribe, and let's keep exploring together. When Leonardo da Vinci passed away in 1519, the painting that had once been carefully guarded in his possession began a new chapter of its journey. Acquired by King Francis I of France, the portrait moved into royal hands, silently transforming from a personal masterpiece into a national treasure. For centuries, it remained in France, admired within royal collections, protected, and yet still not the cultural phenomenon we know today. Its value grew slowly, almost as if destiny itself was waiting for the perfect moment to reveal the true impact of this enigmatic woman's gaze. History often unfolds this way. Moments of transformation appear not when we expect them, but when a chain of events suddenly shifts the spotlight. That spotlight turned blinding in the summer of 1911, when the unthinkable happened. A man named Vincenzo Peruggia, an Italian worker hired to build protective glass cases for the Louvre, decided to hide the Mona Lisa under his work uniform and simply walk out of the museum. What could have been a quiet crime exploded into one of the greatest scandals of the century. The absence of her presence created more noise than the painting itself ever had before. Newspapers filled with stories, whispers of conspiracy, and speculation that touched on themes of nationalism, betrayal, and even hidden truths about cultural ownership. The theft lasted not days, but years. For 28 months, the world obsessed over her disappearance. People lined up outside the Louvre, not to admire her, but to stare at the empty space on the wall, as if the void itself carried weight and meaning. The mystery grew larger than the artwork, turning her into a symbol of loss, obsession, and the strange power of absence. Isn't it fascinating how sometimes it is not what we see, but what is missing, that shapes our perception most deeply? When she was finally recovered in 1913, the return was nothing short of a revelation. 100,000 people rushed to witness her comeback, proving that the mystique built in those silent years had forever changed the way the world would look at her. The painting was no longer just pigment on wood. It had become a story, a legend, a journey of loss and recovery that elevated its meaning beyond art. From that moment, her status was sealed, and her smile carried not only mystery, but the weight of history's decisions, the mindset of entire nations, and the impact of human obsession. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic, because what unfolded after her return reveals that the Mona Lisa is not only an artwork, but also a mirror of humanity's hunger for symbols, hidden narratives, and the revelations that lie behind the scenes of culture. And before we move forward, I'd love to see how you connect with this story. Write in the comments, "This makes sense to me," if you've ever felt that something gained greater meaning, not because of what it was, but because of the journey it went through. When the Mona Lisa was finally returned to the Louvre in 1913, she no longer belonged only to France. She belonged to the world. The empty space on the wall that once magnified her absence now became the stage of her triumphant return, and with it came a transformation in how humanity perceived her. She was no longer just a Renaissance portrait. She had become a symbol of resilience, survival, and the hidden truth that sometimes loss makes us value something far more deeply than possession ever could. Crowds gathered as if they were meeting a queen. In just 2 days, more than 100,000 people pressed forward to glimpse her enigmatic smile, proving that the journey of disappearance had permanently elevated her place in history. That moment set into motion the mindset we still carry today, where millions line up each year to witness her, almost like pilgrims searching for revelation in front of a sacred icon. But what exactly are they looking for when they meet her gaze? Perhaps it's not only admiration for Leonardo's genius, but also a search for answers, for the hidden stories that seem to be etched in every brushstroke. Take, for example, the delicate position of her hands, folded with a subtle grace that has sparked endless debates. Some scholars suggest this was more than just a pose of serenity. They believe it was a signal, an intimate revelation hinting that the woman immortalized by Da Vinci was pregnant. This idea changes the way we interpret the painting, doesn't it? What looks like a simple posture suddenly transforms into a coded decision, an intentional gesture carrying personal meaning and symbolic weight. The theory gained strength with the discovery of faint traces beneath the surface of the painting, revealed by advanced scans centuries later. A transparent veil across her shoulders, once thought to be merely decorative, aligns with garments worn by expectant mothers during the Italian Renaissance. Details that once went unnoticed suddenly take on an entirely new significance, as though Da Vinci left behind the quiet suggestion of a hidden truth only visible to those willing to look deeper. It is this very layering of mystery and revelation that continues to feed our fascination. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because behind her subtle smile and graceful pose lies not only the story of one woman, but the possibility of transformation, of how identity, secrecy, and art intertwine in ways that challenge how we see both history and ourselves. And I'd love to know your perspective. Write in the comments. There's more than meets the eye, if you believe that sometimes the smallest details can carry the greatest impact. For centuries, the most widely accepted belief has been that the woman immortalized by Leonardo's brush was Lisa Gherardini, the wife of Florentine silk merchant Francesco del Giocondo. Her identity connects the painting not only to Renaissance family traditions, but also to the intimate decisions that shaped the lives of women during that era. Imagine for a moment how unusual it must have been for a merchant's wife, rather than a noblewoman, to be chosen as the subject of what would become the world's most famous portrait. This choice itself feels like a hidden truth, one that speaks volumes about Da Vinci's mindset. Perhaps he was less concerned with status, and more fascinated by the subtle revelations of human experience. Yet, despite the centuries of speculation, it wasn't until modern times that new technology began peeling back layers of the canvas, unveiling secrets Da Vinci never intended for the naked eye to see. In 2006, Canadian scientists used infrared 3D scans on the painting and discovered faint details invisible to anyone standing before her. These scans suggested that beneath the soft folds of her clothing, there may have been signs of pregnancy. It is as if Leonardo left behind a quiet signal, hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be revealed centuries later with the help of science. Isn't it remarkable how innovation and art can intertwine to transform the way we interpret history? Even more telling was the discovery of a transparent veil draped across her head and shoulders. At first glance, it might seem decorative, but in Renaissance Italy such veils were commonly worn by pregnant women. Suddenly, what once appeared to be a small artistic detail becomes a clue with enormous impact, shifting our entire perspective on her identity. Was Da Vinci commissioned to celebrate the birth of a child? Was he capturing a moment of transformation in Lisa's life? A moment that blends personal story with universal symbolism? These are questions that remind us of the power of perspective and the importance of reading between the lines, or in this case, between the brush strokes. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because behind these subtle discoveries lies not only the possibility of identifying the sitter, but also an exploration of how science, art, and human stories converge to reveal layers of truth we could never have imagined. And tell me, what do you think? Write in the comments. Revelations are everywhere. If you believe that sometimes the smallest clues can completely transform the way we understand a story, among the many theories that surround the Mona Lisa, few are as provocative as the suggestion that the woman portrayed was not a noble merchant's wife, but a prostitute. This interpretation emerges from details that may appear insignificant at first glance. Her lack of visible eyebrows and the way her hair seems to fall loosely over her shoulders. In Renaissance society, both of these features carried symbolic weight. Prostitutes of the time were known to pluck their brows and lashes to achieve a smoother, more alluring look, and wearing hair down was considered improper for respectable women. The implication is bold, almost scandalous, as if Da Vinci's most celebrated work concealed a hidden truth that redefined her identity entirely. Yet, just as history often presents competing versions of reality, technology offers us new ways of peeling back the surface and confronting those interpretations. Advanced infrared scans revealed that her hair was not actually loose at all, but carefully tied and covered with a veil, the traditional style of a married woman. This discovery dismantled part of the earlier theory and replaced it with another possibility, showing us once again how perspective shifts depending on the tools and mindset we bring to the investigation. It's a fascinating reminder of how science, art, and cultural assumptions collide, reshaping our understanding with every revelation. Still, the puzzle of her missing eyebrows continues to spark curiosity. For decades, critics debated whether Leonardo intentionally omitted them, whether they faded with time, or whether careless restoration removed them altogether. This absence, small as it may seem, became one of the defining oddities of the painting, a symbol of mystery that fuels both academic debate and popular imagination. It's almost poetic that something as simple as the absence of a few brush strokes could influence the journey of an entire masterpiece, transforming it into an icon of enigma and speculation. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because the truth about those delicate details, the hair, the veil, the missing brows, is not just about style or fashion. It's about perception, about the choices that shape identity, and about how even the smallest features can carry the weight of cultural impact. Tell me your perspective. Write in the comments. Details change everything. If you believe that sometimes what seems insignificant at first glance can hold the greatest power to transform a story. The mystery of the missing eyebrows seemed, for a long time, to be one of those details destined to remain unanswered. Yet in 2007, a French engineer named Pascal Cotte applied high-definition imaging to the Mona Lisa and uncovered something extraordinary: faint traces of brushstrokes where the brows should have been. This discovery suggested that Leonardo had, in fact, painted them, but time, deterioration, or perhaps even overzealous restoration, erased what once framed her enigmatic gaze. It's almost poetic to think that centuries of speculation were born from the fading of a few delicate strokes, reminding us how the smallest transformations can alter perception on a massive scale. Historical testimony adds another layer of weight to this revelation. Giorgio Vasari, one of the earliest biographers of Renaissance artists, described the Mona Lisa as having thick eyebrows. His account now resonates with new credibility, confirming that the portrait we see today is not the same as the one that left Leonardo's hands. This gap between the original and the present invites us to question how much of what we admire is Da Vinci's pure vision, and how much is shaped by time, circumstance, and human intervention. It's a hidden truth buried in the painting's journey, a behind-the-scenes story that changes the way we connect with her. And then comes one of the most provocative ideas of all, the suggestion that the Mona Lisa may not be a woman at all, but Leonardo himself disguised in feminine form. The androgynous features of the portrait, the strong nose, the slightly prominent forehead, the balance between softness and strength, have led some to argue that the painting is in fact a coded self-portrait. This interpretation aligns with Da Vinci's known fascination with riddles, puzzles, and secret layers of meaning. If true, it would mean the most famous symbol of femininity in art history could actually represent the artist's own identity, blurred and transformed through his genius. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because whether we see her as Lisa Gherardini, as a courtesan, or as Da Vinci himself, the impact lies in how identity is shaped by layers of perspective. The journey from what is painted to what is perceived reveals more about us than about the sitter. Our mindset, our decisions about what we choose to believe, and our hunger for revelations that make sense of the unknown. And I'd love to hear your view. Write in the comments. Identity is never simple. If you believe that behind every face, every story, there's always more than what appears on the surface. Advances in digital technology have allowed researchers to compare the Mona Lisa's features with Leonardo's own self-portrait, and the similarities are difficult to ignore. The structure of the nose, the outline of the jaw, even the subtle proportions of the eyes reveal connections that go beyond coincidence. It feels as though Da Vinci might have blurred the boundaries between subject and self, transforming the painting into a secret reflection, a hidden truth disguised in the soft veil of a woman's smile. This possibility makes the work even more fascinating, because it suggests that behind the scenes, Leonardo wasn't simply creating a portrait. He was exploring identity, duality, and the delicate line between reality and imagination. But not all theories stop there. Some art historians propose that the Mona Lisa may not represent a single person at all, but rather a fusion of two identities. According to this view, Da Vinci combined Lisa Gherardini with the youthful face of his apprentice and possible lover, Salai. If true, this decision would make the painting not just a portrait, but an intentional amalgam, a symbolic merging of devotion, admiration, and personal connection. The idea is striking, a masterpiece that embodies transformation by weaving together fragments of different lives into one face, a reflection of the choices and relationships that shaped Leonardo's journey. Even the features of the painting itself have been studied through another lens, one less poetic, but equally compelling. Dr. Vito Franco, examining the Mona Lisa with a medical mindset, suggested that her face reveals signs of high cholesterol and even a lipoma, a benign fatty tumor. Suddenly, what has often been viewed as a mysterious expression could be reinterpreted as the physical impact of illness. It may seem surprising to imagine such a celebrated image carrying the marks of health problems, but Leonardo was fascinated by anatomy and the realities of the human body. Perhaps he chose not to idealize his subject, but to reveal her as she truly was, complete with imperfections that tell a deeper story about mortality and truth. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because whether we see her as a mirror of Da Vinci himself, as a blend of muse and lover, or as a woman bearing the silent marks of illness, the impact lies in how this portrait forces us to rethink identity, beauty, and the choices we make about what is worth preserving in history. And I'm curious about your view. Write in the comments. The face hides many stories. If you believe that every expression, even one as timeless as the Mona Lisa's, carries layers of revelation beyond what the eye first sees. During the Renaissance, artists like Leonardo da Vinci were not merely painters of beauty. They were observers of truth. They studied anatomy with precision, examined illness with curiosity, and captured in their work the raw authenticity of the human condition. This mindset reveals something profound about the Mona Lisa, perhaps her subtle asymmetries, the softness around her eyes, even the ambiguous curve of her smile were not flaws to be corrected, but truths to be preserved. Instead of idealizing her into an unattainable symbol of perfection, Leonardo may have chosen to immortalize her as she was, transforming a simple portrait into a mirror of humanity's complexity. That decision adds depth to the mystery, because what we perceive as ambiguity might simply be honesty, an honesty few artists dared to show at the time. Yet beyond the medical or personal interpretations lies another layer, one rooted in mathematics and geometry. Some scholars claim that the secret to the Mona Lisa's enduring power is hidden in the golden ratio, that timeless formula of balance and proportion found in nature, architecture, and countless works of art. According to this theory, Leonardo applied the golden ratio not only to the structure of her face, but to the composition of the entire painting, creating harmony so precise that our eyes instinctively recognize it as beauty. The painting becomes not only a work of creativity but also a demonstration of scientific knowledge, a fusion of art and mathematics that reflects Leonardo's mindset as both artist and inventor. What's fascinating is how the human brain responds to these proportions. Without realizing it, we are naturally drawn to them, as if guided by an invisible force. When we look at the Mona Lisa, the balance of her features resonates with our perception of order and symmetry. This may explain why her gaze feels so magnetic, why her smile lingers in our minds, and why the painting transcends cultural boundaries. It touches something universal within us, a recognition of harmony that speaks to both reason and emotion, science and soul. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because the interplay between truth and perfection, between raw humanity and mathematical precision, reveals that the Mona Lisa is not just a portrait, but a dialogue between what is real and what is ideal. And I'd love to hear your perspective. Write in the comments. Harmony is powerful. If you believe that balance, whether in art or in life, carries a hidden impact that shapes how we feel and what we see. Her smile has long been the heartbeat of the Mona Lisa's mystery, the detail that has kept scholars, artists, and dreamers circling back for centuries. What makes it so enigmatic is that it refuses to be fixed in one interpretation. Depending on where your eyes land, the expression changes. When you focus directly on her lips, the smile softens, becoming almost elusive, as though she is holding something back. But shift your gaze toward her eyes or the shadows around her face, and suddenly her smile grows wider, warmer, more alive. It feels less like paint on wood, and more like a living presence, as if Da Vinci managed to capture not a single moment, but the transformation of an emotion unfolding in real time. This illusion is not an accident, but a result of Da Vinci's genius understanding of perception. By using low spatial frequency, the way our eyes process blurred shapes and contrasts, he created an image that behaves differently in central and peripheral vision. It's a trick centuries ahead of neuroscience, manipulating the brain in ways that science would only explain much later. This mastery demonstrates not only his artistic skill, but also his mindset as a visionary, someone who saw painting not as decoration, but as an experiment with human perception. Behind the scenes of the Renaissance, Da Vinci was conducting psychological studies with pigment and brush, testing how far he could bend reality into mystery. Modern technology has even tried to decode what Da Vinci left behind. In 2005, researchers used emotion recognition software to analyze her expression. The result was fascinating. The system determined that her smile was overwhelmingly classified as happy, 83% happy to be exact. This suggests that what so many describe as ambiguous or unsettling may, in fact, be a portrait of joy, subtle, yet undeniable. Perhaps the hidden truth is that the Mona Lisa's power doesn't come from sorrow or secrecy, but from the quiet impact of restrained happiness, a happiness so delicate it feels timeless. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because this shifting smile, halfway between illusion and revelation, invites us to question not just what she feels, but how we ourselves perceive reality, and how our own mindset shapes the meaning we take from what we see. Tell me what you think. Write in the comments. Perception changes everything. If you believe that how we choose to look at something can transform not just art, but the very way we understand life itself. Among the many theories attempting to decode her mysterious smile, one of the most striking is the suggestion that it hides a physical absence, that the Mona Lisa may have been missing her front teeth. A dentist who studied the painting argued that her expression, so often described as enigmatic, could in fact reflect the typical appearance of someone who had lost those teeth. Suddenly, what seems like a delicate, ambiguous smile might actually be shaped by a very human imperfection. This possibility adds a raw dimension to the portrait, reminding us that even in art, beauty and vulnerability often coexist. Other interpretations point to subtle scarring around her mouth, marks that might not have been part of Da Vinci's original intention, but instead the result of time's erosion or past restoration attempts. Yet for some, these faint traces are more than accidents of aging. They're potential clues to a hidden truth about her life. The idea that the texture of her skin, her subtle lines, and even these imperfections could all carry meaning challenges us to rethink what we see. Is her face the work of a master preserving her natural form, or has history itself altered her features, leaving us with a canvas that tells two stories at once, the sitter's and the painting's own journey through centuries? Perhaps the darkest theory of all reframes the portrait not as a celebration of beauty or mystery, but as a silent testimony to suffering. Some scholars argue that Lisa Gherardini lived through an unhappy marriage, possibly marked by domestic abuse. If that were true, the smile we interpret as playful or enigmatic might instead be one of resignation, a mask concealing hardship. It casts the painting in a completely different light, transforming it from an icon of charm into a reflection of hidden pain. The impact of this interpretation is profound because it forces us to consider how much of what we see is shaped by context, and how art can hold within it the invisible echoes of human struggle. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because whether her smile reveals loss, the scars of time, or the quiet endurance of suffering, each interpretation reshapes the way we view not only the painting, but the choices and revelations that define human experience itself. And I'd love to know your view. Write in the comments. Every smile hides a story. If you believe that even the most beautiful expressions can sometimes conceal truths that words never reveal. Some scholars have even suggested that the curious swelling around her mouth could be explained by bruxism, the unconscious grinding of teeth often triggered by stress or tension. If that were true, the Mona Lisa's smile may not only reflect beauty or mystery, but also the quiet impact of an inner struggle, a physical mark of hidden pressures she endured. It is fascinating to imagine that one of the world's most celebrated expressions could actually be rooted in the same human frailties that still affect us today: anxiety, stress, and the ways they leave their trace on the body. This possibility shifts our mindset, making the painting less a symbol of perfection and more a mirror of lived experience, where even the finest art carries signs of vulnerability. But the mysteries don't stop with medical speculation. In 2010, researchers armed with magnification technology uncovered something that reignited centuries of intrigue: tiny symbols hidden in her eyes and background. These details, invisible to the naked eye, suggest that Leonardo may have deliberately embedded secret codes into the work, transforming a portrait into a puzzle designed to outlive him. The discovery sparked debates about intention versus coincidence, but given Da Vinci's lifelong fascination with riddles, numbers, and hidden truths, the idea feels strikingly plausible. What's even more captivating is the nature of these symbols. In her right eye, the letters L and B seem to appear, interpreted by many as Leonardo da Vinci's initials. On their own, they could be dismissed as random cracks or brush marks, yet together they carry the weight of intent, a signature not placed in the usual corner of a painting, but concealed in plain sight, waiting centuries to be found. It's as if Da Vinci wanted to communicate behind the scenes, speaking not only to his contemporaries, but to us, the future observers, who would one day have the tools to uncover what was invisible before. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because these discoveries push us to ask not just who the Mona Lisa was, but what message Leonardo himself may have been trying to leave behind: a coded revelation hidden in her gaze, designed to transcend time. And I'd love to hear your take. Write in the comments. The eyes hold the secret. If you believe that sometimes the greatest truths are not written in words, but hidden in what we dare to look closely enough to see. The discovery of numbers within the Mona Lisa, particularly the number 72 etched faintly in the background, adds yet another layer of mystery to her story. Numbers carry weight far beyond their mathematical function. They have long been linked to symbolism, hidden meanings, and even spiritual revelations. Was Leonardo embedding a code tied to sacred geometry, biblical references, or personal decisions he wished to hide in plain sight? The lack of a clear explanation only deepens the intrigue, leaving us to wonder whether these markings are remnants of his fascination with esoteric knowledge or intentional clues designed to provoke curiosity across centuries. It is a reminder that behind the serene image lies a canvas woven with secrets, where every detail might carry impact far beyond the obvious. Leonardo's obsession with codes makes these discoveries even more compelling. He was not just a painter but a thinker who blurred the line between art and science, often embedding puzzles into his notebooks, sketches, and works. His mindset thrived on complexity, on the transformation of ordinary details into intellectual challenges. To consider that the Mona Lisa might hold hidden messages perfectly fits his character, as if the portrait was meant to function both as art and as a riddle that only future generations, equipped with the right tools, could attempt to solve. It is almost as though he designed the painting as a journey, not just to be seen, but to be deciphered. In 2015, this idea gained even greater traction when Pascal Cotte revealed something extraordinary. Beneath the Mona Lisa, we know, another portrait seemed to emerge. Using advanced reflective light technology, he uncovered multiple layers that suggest Leonardo reworked the painting over time, possibly painting entirely different versions, before arriving at the one the world now reveres. This behind-the-scenes revelation shifts the narrative entirely. The Mona Lisa may not represent a single vision, but a series of evolving decisions, each transformation reflecting Leonardo's relentless pursuit of perfection, or perhaps his desire to conceal one truth beneath another. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because if hidden numbers, codes, and entire portraits lie beneath her surface, then the Mona Lisa becomes not just a painting but a living archive of Leonardo's revelations, a layered manuscript of secrets meant to be discovered piece by piece. And tell me what you think. Write in the comments. Every layer hides a truth. If you believe that sometimes the greatest impact comes not from what is visible, but from the hidden journeys beneath the surface, Pascal Cott's use of reflective light scanning felt almost like peeling back the centuries, as if technology could travel through time and stand behind Leonardo's shoulder while he worked. Layer by layer, the scans revealed brushstrokes hidden beneath the surface, exposing choices, corrections, and fragments of images that had long been buried under the final glaze. It was like discovering the behind-the-scenes journey of a masterpiece, showing not only what Da Vinci wanted the world to see, but also the transformations he made along the way. Each layer became a window into his mindset, a restless genius who treated art not as a finished act, but as a process of constant evolution. Among the most striking revelations was the image of an alternate face, a woman whose features seemed distinct from the Mona Lisa we know today. Her gaze was slightly different, her posture less elusive, and her expression more direct. For some, this discovery was nothing short of revolutionary. Perhaps the Mona Lisa that millions visit each year is not the original vision at all, but merely the final chapter of a longer story. This interpretation challenges our decisions about what we call authentic, reminding us that truth is often layered and subjective, shaped by what survives rather than what was first imagined. Of course, skeptics offer a more measured view. To them, these hidden images are not evidence of multiple identities or secret conspiracies, but rather a reflection of Da Vinci's experimentation. They argue that any great artist revises, hesitates, and reworks their canvas, and what Cott's scans uncovered was simply Leonardo's process unfolding step by step. It is a perspective that grounds the mystery in practicality, yet even this explanation carries weight, because it shows us the transformation of an idea into a masterpiece, the intimate decisions that shaped the final work. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic, because whether we interpret these hidden portraits as alternate identities or as experiments left behind, the impact lies in how they remind us that art is never static. It is a journey of choices, revelations, and layers that mirror the very complexity of human experience. And I'd love your thoughts. Write in the comments. Truth is layered. If you believe that every story, whether in art or in life, is built not on a single image, but on the many hidden layers beneath the surface. For all the science, speculation, and theories that have surrounded her for centuries, the truth remains suspended in uncertainty. Who she truly is continues to be one of art history's most enduring mysteries. Is she Lisa Gherardini, a Florentine merchant's wife, a coded self-portrait of Leonardo in disguise, a blend of muse and apprentice, or perhaps an entirely different figure, hidden beneath layers of paint and time? The debate has never been resolved, and maybe that is precisely why the Mona Lisa endures. Her power is not in the certainty of answers, but in the endless questions she invites. The painting becomes less about one woman and more about the human fascination with mystery itself, our need to seek hidden truths, to uncover meaning where ambiguity reigns. Every theory, from the plausible to the outlandish, adds another dimension to her legend. Each interpretation reshapes her, reminding us that identity is never fixed but always transforming, depending on the lens through which we choose to look. This is the impact of her smile, her gaze, her presence. She becomes a canvas not only for Leonardo's genius, but also for our own imaginations. She reflects our decisions about truth, beauty, and meaning, mirroring back not just who she is, but who we are as seekers of revelation, and that is the essence of her allure. Beyond the brushstrokes, beyond the pigments and layers, what captures us is the journey she represents, a journey into uncertainty, into the blurred space between fact and imagination. The Mona Lisa is not simply a portrait hanging in the Louvre, she is an invitation to wonder, a reminder that not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Some are meant to ignite curiosity, to inspire imagination, to remind us of the transformative power of asking questions without expecting final answers. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because what makes the Mona Lisa extraordinary is not only the theories about her identity, but the way she forces us to confront our own desire for meaning and the mindset that turns ambiguity into endless fascination. And I'd love to hear your perspective. Write in the comments. Mystery is powerful. If you believe that what makes something unforgettable is not certainty, but the revelations hidden in its unanswered questions. If you made it all the way here, it probably means this journey through mystery and hidden truths resonated with you. That's exactly why I'd love for you to subscribe, so you don't miss the kind of stories and insights that keep opening new doors of curiosity and imagination. And since you've walked with me until the very last moment, let me know in the comments by writing, "I'm with you until the end." It's a small way of marking that connection we built together through this exploration. If this conversation sparked something in you, a simple like on the video is always appreciated. It's a way of saying this exchange mattered. And if you're ready to keep diving deeper, there's a video right here that complements everything we've uncovered. Click and continue with me over there. The journey is far from finished.